curious what your thoughts are just on the broader ESG narrative and how that fits into this whole like clean energy. Let's get off of fossil fuel. Like it all feeds into one another.
Mhm.
And I'm curious where ESG, how big of an effect it has on all of this, in your
Yeah,
opinion.
ESG is like the IMF. People see it as benevolent, but I think it's a horrible tool of oppression. It's a way to restrict people or to give a monopoly to certain favored groups or whatever. The dirty secret of wind and solar is that almost all of them are backed up by natural gas or coal power plants because they're not reliable enough, right? Like, so you build this thing, and solar power only works during the day, obviously, because there's no sun shining in the evening. Wind power only works when it's windy. And so in order to balance that out, they just fire up a natural gas power plant to supply energy to make up the difference. Now, like, the obvious question at that point should be, well, if they're doing that, why have wind or solar at all? Because then you can just supply all of the energy with the natural gas power plant at the same time. And like, it doesn't make any logical sense. And much like Keynesian economics that the IMF works under, yeah, like none of this stuff actually works. And that's kind of the point, is so much of it is sold as something that's beneficial for people, for these countries, when it's actually not. And I want to point out that a lot of these ideas I got through reading Fossil Future, which is set to be released pretty soon. But Alex Epstein wrote this, and he's he has the book, just laying out like the moral case for fossil fuels, and it's I don't think I could find a hole in there. It's like literally pro-human to be pro-fossil fuels, and anti-human to be pro-solar or wind, because what you're doing is preventing developing countries from developing. That's literally anti-civilization, right? They could be building up roads and buildings and like clean water filtration systems and making wells or whatever. Instead, there's like, yeah, that's the one. There instead
Really
there's a
quickly, we will have Alex Epstein on to talk about this book that Jimmy is ranting about on
yeah.
Tuesday on the show.
Yeah, you definitely should, and I would tune in for that. But the big thing is you're preventing all of these countries from developing, much like the IMF does, and ESG is kind of the same thing. It's a way to give a monopoly to the favored people. It's a subset of the Cantillon effect, right? Where you subsidize or you give loans to the people that you favor. So I know some oil executives and people like that, they can't get a loan from Wells Fargo, right? Like the bank won't give them a loan. But if you have like a wind farm project, you can get a loan. Like this is how the Cantillon effect works. You get a loan, you get freshly printed money if you are in compliance with whatever the authorities want you to do. If you're not, then you're going to get screwed. And in a sense, like this is the thing that the government is starting to realize. Like, the ESG narrative against Bitcoin is really a fiat narrative against Bitcoin. It's, hey, we can't be in control of these things anymore. And it comes under our jurisdiction because of this particular thing, and therefore you need to listen to us, or something like that. And that's a horrible sort of like way of controlling people, because you're essentially taking away their productivity through taking away their like capacity to build stuff. This is how Rome fell. This is how every civilization falls, is through all of this grift and rent seeking that goes on, where progress just doesn't happen because the powers that be decide what's good or not. Like there's a story of this Chinese emperor. I can't remember his name, But he inherited, I guess, as an emperor, like this large fleet of ships that were going out and doing all this trade and stuff like that. He decided instead that they were a waste of money, burned all the ships, and invested in social programs. And that ended up being sort of like China's MO right up until about 20 years ago, right? Like they were very insular and sort of like, okay, we have to provide for our own people. He didn't realize that creating something for everybody is beneficial, and that was like, or trading with other people and participating in the global economy. Instead, he looked inward, and that's unfortunately what the ESG narrative is. It's a focus inward on stuff that's not even good science, I don't think, and that's really just a way to control people.
Sometimes I have a hard time finding where the mute button is. um, Jimmy, I'm curious. Like we're bearing witness to, I think, the culmination of an attempt to get off of this fossil fuel reliance and then realizing, hey, we're actually not ready for that, bearing witness to what we're seeing in Europe and the way Russia has been able to sort of control energy exports to much of Eastern and Central Europe. Um, I'm curious where your thoughts are on the future of energy and how fossil fuels fit into that future.